Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your first episode of the 5 o'clock tea podcast. My name is Ismail Raqi, and I'm your host for the rest of the podcast series. Today, in this first episode, I've thought of someone who is very special, someone who is very dear to me, someone who started his career as a UM6P student, but now he's a colleague, someone who will tell us a lot about his country. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Abdoul Kafid Toko.
Thank you for having me. And it's such a pleasure to have a good conversation with you, Raqi. I'm Toko from Benin and project manager for African Partnership at the School of Collective Intelligence.
If you can go back in time and just share with us how actually it felt back then.
Yeah, true. So basically, I'm someone who studied undergrad in statistics and computer science back in time in my country in Benin. And then when I finished, as an undergrad student in most of the African country, with my experience in Morocco now, I could just definitely generalize it. We have almost some of the same challenges. Sometimes you don't have a job yet. You need to grow in terms of competencies. You also look at opportunity. What can I do, to create value, to create myself a job and so on. So that's where I was working as a part-time, consultant with some NGOs, helping them to collect data, in a rural area with women in agriculture.
Okay.
But also using my skill in web and app development and giving those services.
I know that you are very, it's your kind of your expertise, data collection, data interpretation, IT, stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's come to a time where I was really, really interested, not about the technical side of things, but how could we, use all of those knowledge to bring change within our communities. And by communities, let us see it at different scale. It could be in the small neighbor, in the cities, or the country.
Or the continent.
Yeah, or the continent for sure.
Yeah.
So that's where I come across the idea that I need to grow in my learning journey. So I start looking for opportunities, abroad. And I remember getting some admission in France at that moment. And when I got the admission in France, it was the same time that UM6P was opening the School of Collective Intelligence.
Okay, interesting.
So a friend of mine, a mentor of me, who discovered UM6P, just introduced the university to me. And I went through the website at that time, reading about, the vision, first of all, of the university, going through the program. And the master's degree appeared to me that that's what you need.
So actually, what I understand is that between France and Morocco, you opted for Morocco.
Yeah.
You opted for UM6P.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually great to hear, indeed. Yes.
Sure. So when I read the program, I remember going back to that friend and I was like, this degree in collective intelligence is what I need because it's diverse and background and kind of multidisciplinary field.
Indeed, yeah.
Where you could combine so many things and learn new things about cog science and human behavior to bring change management and so on. So that's the way I focus, and I went through the application of UM6P process. We all know how tough it is.
Yeah.
Going through step by step.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my fear was the program is 100% in English.
Okay.
How can I cope with it?
Okay.
And then
the first challenge was actually the language of instruction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, coming from a Francophone country, I have some basic, in English, but I wasn't confident enough that that's, it could help me going through a whole master degree program.
Okay. What is the state of, let's say, languages in Benin? You know that Morocco is bilingual, and I'm sure also like whole Africa is, we have our local languages.
Sure,
But what is the state of languages in Benin, if you can just briefly?
Yeah. That's a good question. Benin is a purely francophone country.
Okay.
So French is like the national language that
All right.
everyone use, because there is a huge diversity of culture. You have more than 50 language that people speak. In their
Different
local
places,
community.
yeah, different actually areas
So-
in the country.
So I come to a point that I used to say that French is maybe the what become like the the baseline.
How many local
for everyone.
languages you have in Benin?
Yeah, I think it's about 50.
50.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that have been identified, and when you travel across the country,
Okay.
you definitely
What
meet
is
people.
what is, for example, if you can give us any names from those 50 languages?
I think I will give mine.
Okay, yeah, sure. This is what we're looking
Yeah, I'm from a tribe that you call Batonu.
for. Batono,
Yes, and sometimes people call it Bariba.
Bariba. Okay.
The great thing about it is that you find those population in Benin, but also in Nigeria.
All right.
So part of it in Nigeria
and part of it in Benin. Okay.
and it's one of the. It's a little bit like Morocco, I would say, because we have a long history of a monarchy that still exists up till now.
No, I know about that. Yes. I mean, the region has been actually a kingdom for many, I would say, many centuries.
Exactly.
And a very rich one, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Exactly.
It was a very rich kingdom in terms of, resources, minerals, etc.
Yeah. And also agricultural practice and model of governance, because that's one of the, I would say, great thing about my culture. Maybe we could come back on
Of
those
course,
details.
yes. What was the thing, or what is the thing that, let's say, attracted you first when you arrived to Morocco, or still something that is still looks attractive to you, or something that still you need clarification, for example, about something cultural practice, maybe something that you do differently, for example?
Yeah, I mean, there is a huge similarity. That's what I learned throughout the year I spent here. Sometimes discussing with you, but also with our dear friend Mohsin.
Mohsin, yes. So we can say hi to Mohsin.
Yeah, for sure. But I have to say the first thing is the people.
All right.
When I mean people, when you observe the way people speak to you, I'm talking about the culturally deepest one.
Okay.
When you meet people, they are very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know more about you, where you're coming from, and all of those things.
So is this a similarity or a difference?
Yes, it's a similarity.
Okay, between
my culture, specifically speaking, and what I observe here in Morocco.
I believe that all, let's say, all African countries, or this is probably what part of the African DNA, if I may say so, is being open to others,
sure.
being welcoming to other cultures and to other people from different places around Africa or elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I believe this is, as a Moroccan, I know that this is what this is the typical Moroccan is someone who is very welcoming. And I think it's our it's our mission also. It's something that we should really think about. For example, I am a teacher, I am an educator, and a parent as well. And probably it's the same for you. You're not a parent yet, but I'm sure it's coming in few months, maybe in few years.
Yeah, maybe not.
But you work within a university, so you are within academia, and I know you are smart, and you were my student actually, and I know you have that. You feel that burden of, preserving our foundations and our, culture and our principles, and transmitting them. It's not only about preserving them, but also teaching them to the coming generation, so that the coming generation also do the same, or does the same with the next one. And yes, it's very difficult now with all the factors that exist. We're not here actually to discuss those factors, but I feel that now there is a certain vibe. I'm not sure if you feel the same, but I feel that there is a certain vibe that people are going back to the roots.
Exactly.
And for example, and this is also, this can be like a way to move to your specialty. So you studied collective intelligence,
Sure.
and people have different views about what collective intelligence is. So, I mean, basically, it's together. Being together is actually smarter than being alone. So I believe
that's the
like to sum up.
Yeah,
to
to
sum
sum up
it all. Yes, it's just being together. But even together, how we are going to think together, and these are the details. But for example, I'm sure that African societies or Africa can teach a lot when it comes to collective intelligence.
Yeah, for sure.
If we go back, for example, to certain African cultural practices related to nature, related to environment, related to learning and teaching, kids, etc., related to agriculture, related to, the household, etc., you will find that maybe if we go back to those practices, the world can be a better place.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think
exactly.
Back in, for example, in Benin, people do the same.
Sure. Your analysis is totally right, and going back to those cultural facts and values and wealth, I would say,
Yeah, indeed.
is something that we definitely need to work on. And I, from my observation, because one of the luck I would talk about, in UM6P, we have this, chance. We are lucky enough of having people coming from so many countries. We have a diverse, how can I say, community representing so different countries. And whenever you spend time, with those people coming from different places from Africa, yes, for sure, what you are talking about is true.
Yes, yeah.
You feel like there is a thinking process that is coming up for people.
Yes.
Going back to
the roots.
What's
ours, yes, instead of what we learned, for example, from the West. I believe, for example, the way Africans teach their children, for example, how to do certain things is can be very, I would say, inspiring, informative in terms of how maybe learning methods can actually be developed. You see my point?
Exactly.
For example, if we look at agriculture, it's the same thing. Myself, I when I remember actually back in the days when I was younger, because now I'm very old.
Okay.
So back in the days, we used to go to to the countryside with my father and my my mother, etc., to spend summer or spring, and I used to be in close contact with the villagers and people living in our village. And I still remember that the way they taught us things was amazing, impressive, through collaboration. Through observation. First, observation, of course, first, yes. And through collaboration with other, pupils, other kids. And then through injecting a certain doses of responsibility.
Exactly.
So you see my point? It's not just responsibility as such, but it's doses. It's like levels of responsibility until you reach one. And of course, those stages are kind of tests or exams. You see my point?
Yeah.
And you need to pass each one until you are fully responsible to lead whatever you.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're talking about is, it will bring you to one fact about me, my name.
Yes.
Which
okay.
Is Toko. So basically, in my language, when you said Toko.
So again, what's your language? Sorry.
Batono.
Yeah. Okay. Is it in the north of Benin?
In the north of Benin.
Okay.
So the name is literally mean like old. Like an old person.
Toko.
Yes.
Old person.
Old person.
So is it like two syllables? It's like to. Ko or
No, it's just the one word like that.
Toko.
Yes.
Okay.
The one word mean like an old person.
An old person.
So in that old person, which is mean person with wisdom as well.
Okay.
Why? Because in that culture, there is a kind of leadership combined with the hierarchy, in a way that we consider an older person accumulating more knowledge
than
the
youngest
person.
Yeah.
So that's why the youngest always give respect to the older one.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever a younger want to do something, he always kind of consult
the
older one just to have more information before diving into X or Y.
Okay. Yes.
So you see, that's what you are definitely
actually,
talking about.
This is actually, it's the same here. And you still see these practices in certain areas in Morocco. Yes, of course, not in cities, not in big cities. Why? Again, it's clear why, it's obvious. But we value the elderly, and we believe that the elderly, they have a certain wisdom.
Exactly.
That as a youngster, as a young person, you need to aspire to that level of that person, and you need to learn, etc. And you need to consult. And by the way, where I come from, for example, a woman can be a leader. I come from a region that is actually close to Ben Gurir. It's a village on the suburbs of Yusufia that is very old. And I remember that my grandmother was actually the chief of the community. The community. So men come in to consult with her, people come in to ask her for advice, etc. So here leadership was not gender-based, but it was, I would say, based on merit and based on knowledge and your experience and your etc. etc. And I believe it's the same in
when I pick my today, if we go to Benin, like the place where you find out my culture, the kingdomship, the city is called Niki. In the north side of Benin, and that's why even the population, people also in Nigeria, they do come every year in that place. So the king has what we call Nyokogi, which is like a woman.
So Niki, what does it have a meaning, Niki?
Yeah, Niki, it's mean, a place like a savanna where there is, natural, let us say, water for agriculture, somewhere you could thrive.
Oh, right. Okay, so that's Niki.
Yeah.
Okay, and what does it have, this city? So people from Nigeria, etc. They come
because
visit?
That's where the king is of my tribe.
Okay, so it's where the king of your tribe is.
Okay,
currently. All right.
So, and every year there is a festival called Gani. Yes, which happen near to the Maulud as well. Because there is another story that connects.
Is it like mainly for Muslim community, or it's
it's for my community, and today for offshore you have
others
some of them
non-Muslim,
but some of them are also Muslim.
Okay.
One thing about Benin and also my culture is you find people practicing whether it's Islam or Christianity or different things, but there is a deep connection to our cultural, practices and terms of spirituality as well, and so on. So it's a mix.
It's a mix. Well, yeah,
it's a mix.
Well, I could see some similarities also here, for example. And I mean, things related to this. Going back to Niki, so it's where it's like this birthplace of your the king
of the king, and when you were talking about the use case of a woman, being into the political system, we do have such things. The king is there, but there is someone called a woman that's called like Nyokogi.
Nyokogi.
Yes, and she's basically like a kind of vice president.
Okay.
Being
and it's always a woman.
Yes, he's always a woman.
Should be a woman.
He should be a woman. And she's the one that even when you go for some ceremony where to get like your name as a prince and so on, she's the one that do officially the ceremony and everything.
Okay.
And that person is at the heart of decision making processes.
Okay.
So it's like having a power to influence the decision making processes. So that's why some anthropologists also talk about these part of participatory governance
Yes, yes,
that is
yes.
being populated now in the West. People find fact the way people use it in those communities, and it has been there. And even if we want to talk about the gender stuff and everything, it has been where the society is organized in a way that every gender is contributing to the collective, growth. It wasn't that someone is marginalized or not.
Oh, no, but it's always based on specific tasks that also man cannot do.
Exactly.
And we're also talking, sometimes I can see that some physical tasks are done by women that men cannot do.
Yep.
For example, I mean, it's because we think that man, because of physical, power, whatever, he can do stuff. But I see that actually women can do that instead.
Yeah, for sure. And even when I pick some theory that we teach people about emotional intelligence and everything, some studies show that sometimes women tend to be more emotionally comprehensive and that's why when I look at those decision making systems that exist in our communities, I find out that maybe there was a fact about using those kind of things, because
I do agree.
They have maybe natural things about their DNA.
No, for example,
and
you spoke earlier about forms of governance.
Yeah.
And I believe that if we again go back to African history, we'll find definitely for sure. I know certain ways and certain forms of governance that are lost, but were actually working
perfectly,
and they were working perfectly.
Yeah.
And there were no bias when it comes to gender. And people view things naturally. I mean, yes, it's not just you're a woman, you should do this. No, you're a man, you should do this. But things actually came naturally.
Yeah, there's a kind of community consensus, base of organizing things. And you talked earlier about the field collective intelligence, and you give that definition, and we know a lot of people inside here at UM6P hear a lot about that.
Yes, we do hear a lot about collective intelligence.
We use it.
I'm sure it's not just we summarize it in kind of one phrase, but
exactly,
I'm sure it's more than that.
Yeah, because it has been part of organizing all of this. Greeting you and me, we are speaking about today, is organizing it and putting it into the feed, a science. I think that's where UM6P and Morocco stand out. By taking it as an opportunity to establish an institution that we start working toward such kind of change. We understand those practices first of all. We find a way to institutionalize them.
I studied colonial and post-colonial discourse, and my focus was Africa. And I did research, like I studied some anthropology, history, ethnography, stuff like this, some philosophy and psychology and politics. And it's the unit of research was in actually humanities and area studies, which is a branch in political science. One day I was asked by this there was a conference, and there was an African a writer, and we were discussing things, and said, well, Ismail, what do you think? Is Africa rich or poor? I said, this
like
is
1 or 0.
I said, yeah, 1 or 0. Thank you very much. Yes, it's always a binary system. It's white, black, 0, 1. I told them, no, it's not about being rich or poor. Africa has been tired maybe for a long time.
Sure.
But now Africa is waking up, and we see, for example, the example of Morocco, the example of Benin. We have Senegal, we have Nigeria, we have other. Look, for example, at this huge project between Nigeria and Morocco, and then Europe, which will benefit actually around 12 countries or more.
Yes. And then the new dynamic with the country
probably we might lead the world in few years. Why not? Why not? Really, I mean, it's not about this. This question is misplaced.
Is bringing us to the complexity, right? Because when we talk about collective intelligence, for instance, we always say that it's a science that is interested about complex problems. We are not here to solve, simple problems. For instance, collective intelligence is not around to find out how we could have, the best camera in this room,
Yes. Yeah.
the best setting to
Yes,
record
of
this.
course, of course. Well, yeah.
It has been, discovered.
Yes.
We
Invented
and
done.
it's just
Yes.
about using it.
Yeah.
So collective intelligence may not be about how could we have clean water in the places where, let us say, we already know that if we dig we could find the water. That's a kind of
Okay.
technical
Okay. All
problem.
right. Yes.
Where you already know the
Yes,
existence
the answer, yes.
solution. You just need finding out and apply.
Mm.
But when it's come to how do we, let us say, have education quality in Africa, for instance, UM6P has been trying great things for so many years now,
Of course.
with greater achievement, great outcome. We all know about that.
Yeah.
But we still have a lot to do,
Of course.
compared to the number of people that are maybe outside here that need quality of education and so on.
Yeah.
So, which is such kind of problem is very complex because it has so many components. Sometimes the component related to history, sometimes to politics,
Of course.
the economic side,
Yeah.
the technical side of it,
The
and
natural side.
natural side and everything. So to solve such kind of issue, you need to bring diverse range of people, of thought and perspective. Listen, first of all, having key information, and identify together what could be the best strategy to solve those issues. So that's why collective intelligence is a fascinating field, and something that I'm always proud of saying it, and I'll say that again and again.
Okay.
That UM6P and all the ecosystem in Morocco just step in and be like, yes,
All right.
let us establish an organization to work throughout.
Well, you are part of this dynamic, and
The dynamic.
we are all part of this
Exactly.
dynamic. Of
And
course.
there is one thing called the cumulative CI, the cumulative collective intelligence, basically speaking. And that concept has been theorized by some researcher in the way that some people said that what makes us, we human being successful compared to other species is that we have the capacity to accumulate knowledge throughout the generation.
Yes. Yes.
Ismail and Togo are not going to think of how could we create a phone.
Yes.
This had been discovered,
Yes.
documented in some,
Yeah.
I would say maybe a research paper or maybe some patent, and then we use them now, to produce a lot and so on. And about the history as well. Sometimes you hear about, I'm sure that you have it also in Morocco. In my culture, music is part of the overall dynamic.
Yes.
So music is used for entertainment, is used for moral and ethical thought building within the society.
For spirituality, for example.
Exactly. And it's also used for what? For storytelling.
Sorry, for
storytelling.
For storytelling, yes, of course.
We all know how storytelling is one of the powerful tools used in management and communication, to improve things. But it's being used in all of those, area to bring the change. And when I pick my culture, you find different type of music being used to transmit information.
What's the type of music we found in your region, for example, or if
there's one very energetic one when people are dancing. It's called teke.
Teke.
Yeah, yes, and it's people dance it.
The dance
as
is
a group.
called teke.
Yes, and people dance it in a group of people.
Okay,
you could find like
what type of music do you like in Morocco?
There is the Gnawa.
Gnawa. Okay. Well, that's purely purely African actually. Gnawa actually came from south, but actually it was the Gnawa style actually was let's say once arrived to Morocco, it got kind of impacted by the local also music genres, etc. And now we have what we call Gnawa as such. So Gnawa in its roots, it's African beat, right? That's why we have the etc. etc. But when actually arrived to Morocco, other elements actually were actually added, and the Moroccan touch also added, or let's say the Moorish touch was, or the Amazigh touch, whatever, was added. And now what we have what we call Gnawa, for example, which is African beat, etc., but also something that is Moroccan.
Yeah.
Morocco is also rich in terms of music, in terms of food. I'm sure you appreciate.
Yeah.
Now, in one word, Toko, and in your language, one word to describe UM6P.
I think I would just say Nyenu.
Nyano. What is
which is mean home.
So Nyano means home.
Yes.
Okay. Another word to describe your ex-teacher?
Goldobu.
Goldobu.
Well, which mean joy.
Joy.
Yes.
Or joyful.
Yeah, joyful.
Joyful. And the last word to describe your experience up to now in Morocco?
I think I will talk about a word that is similar, baraka.
Baraka. Okay. So baraka means baraka, like the baraka, the Moroccan baraka. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Toko, for your insights today. Thank you for this rich episode, and hope we'll see you again in a future one.
Inshallah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you also for watching. Stay tuned for more future episodes only on Times of UM6P.